you got to be a walking, talking role model, because you might be helping someone else. Like, yeah, maybe you're not helping your cubicle buddy or your coworker or your business partner, but you might be helping people just by the way you carry yourself, the way you conduct life. And I think that's what oftentimes we forget, is we are still a walking, talking role model. Hey, welcome to the MDK Project Show. My name is Bedros, Keuilian. That's Steve Eckert. And today we're going to talk about the biggest issues that men have once they start leveling up in life. Now, the Project Show is about helping men achieve faith, family, fitness, and finance, like leveling up in every one of those categories so that you have a life of fulfillment. And so we want to really add as much value to your life as we can with these episodes. And so whether you are leveling up in your life through reading books, courses, doing hard things, surrounding yourself with just higher level people, or you go through some experience like the Project or Spartan Race or some kind of a mud run or Leadville 100, there is issues that are created as a byproduct of leveling up. What are some of the things that you've seen, not only in your personal life, but also from guys that we've helped?
Yeah, it's something that you've talked about a lot of times, that every problem that you solve is just going to open the door to bigger problems in the future. You don't realize it until you get there. So being prepared for that. And we tell guys when they leave the project, you're going to leave here and other problems you're going to solve. You just solved a shitload of problems here, but all that did is create a whole bunch of new problems. And the main one, I think, that we tell people is take your people along for the ride with you. They're not, because they're going back now. They have this, we tell them, high standards of expectation, tremendous attention to detail, driven to dominate life. They go out in the world, and even with the people close to them in their circle, don't know this new level, this 2.0 version of them. They know the slouch ass motherfucker that was watching porn and sitting on the couch all day. So they show up at home, and everyone's like, who the fuck is this guy? I don't know how to deal with him. I don't even know what direction he's going in. And they start leveling up, and they're not taking their people. And their people could mean their team, their employees. It might mean their kids, their spouse, it could be anyone, their parents, whoever, don't understand this new level of them because they have these new high standards of expectations, and the people around them don't anymore. And they're leaving them behind. They need to take those people along for the ride with them.
So I'm glad you said that, taking your people along on the ride with you, because that is exactly what I didn't do when I was, I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 years ago, when I started to kind of discover self-development. And I'll give you an example. And later, because of that, I created my 20-point rule, which I share at the Project. I'll share it with these guys here as well. First of all, the 20-point rule is this. We've all heard of the IQ, like the average American IQ, they say, is 100 points. And so if that's the average American IQ, great.
Not anymore. There's no way it's still 100.
It's got to be lower.
Single fucking digits.
Yeah. But for the point of this argument, let's say it is, but single digits. Actually, dude, did you know the term retard was if you have an IQ of 47 or less? Like, it was documented that you're a retard. Like in psychological, the DMS manual for psychologists, 47 points or lower in IQ made you a retard. So we have actually, while we use the word, I think I've come across real actual retards.
It's all making sense now.
Yeah, that explains why I was in that special ed class back in the elementary schools. But in all seriousness, man, there's the 100-point on average IQ that people have, but now we've all heard of EQ, the emotional quotient. And let's say, for the sake of this argument, the average American, the average person has 100 points of EQ as well, average. Well, we've also discovered at the Project, you need IQ, intelligence quotient, you need EQ, emotional quotient, how much emotional resiliency you can show when you are tired, exhausted, frustrated. Well, there's also AQ, adversity quotient. And adversity quotient is how much hardship you can deal in life and not fall apart. And so let's say IQ, EQ, and AQ. All of them, average American, for the sake of argument, is at 100 points. What I found as I left high school, started my job as a personal trainer, working at Disneyland as well, working as a bouncer at that gay bar for a while. What I found is as I delved into personal development books and courses and surrounded myself with my personal training clients who were financially well off, my IQ might have gone up, but my EQ and AQ especially went up. And I found that the more I would hang out with my old friends, the less I had in common with them. I wouldn't see them for a period of time, 6 months, 5 months, whatever. Then we'd hang out again. I'm like, damn, we're hanging out on a Thursday. I'm looking forward to a Monday coming up because now I'm starting my own personal training business. They're looking forward to Friday, and they're like griping about Monday because Monday they have to go back to that slave labor, whereas I get to go and live my dreams. And I realized that once there's this 20-point gap between you and your friend, you and your spouse, you and your business partner, you and anyone else, your people. Once there's a 20-point gap, like you're 20 points smarter, more intelligent, have higher emotional quotient, have higher adversity quotient, they're fucked. You guys might as well be humans and aliens. Like, you won't understand each other. And that's what happened to me is I failed to introduce my friends back in the day to personal development, self-development, self-mastery. And soon they kind of just floated off like there was less and less contact with me. They literally just stopped contacting me. And I was like, well, I can take a hint. And quite honestly, the last few times we hung out, kind of didn't feel like we got anything out of that relationship anymore. And looking back, man, I realized that I had elevated 20 points or more, and above that 20-point mark, man, that person you can't even connect with anymore. And we see that at the project because in those 75 hours, these dudes elevate so much so quickly in their personal standards, their purpose, their desire to have a new mission to dominate. They'll go home, and if they don't take their families on that ride, like, they start having some turbulence and friction in their life, don't they?
Same thing at work. And I forget the book and whatever the companies that owns that, one of the email services, you used to talk about the book, that they found out the most common denominator of businesses that fail within like a certain amount of years were the CEOs.
Conquering the Chaos. Yeah, is the book. Yeah.
The CEOs that were leveling up and not taking their team along, not creating future leaders, not taking the team along for the ride with them. And they looked at their team, they're like, what's wrong with these people? It's because they weren't bringing them along for the ride. And that was the number one determining factor that he said was for businesses to go out of business was that single factor right there.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, Clayton Mask, who owns Infusionsoft, he wrote the book Conquering the Chaos. And, this is a story worth telling. When you own a platform like Infusionsoft and you can see the back office or the behind the scenes of every business who uses Infusionsoft, where you go, well, that's a pet store, that's a pet store, that's a pet store. They're all in metropolitan cities. That pet store and that pet store is thriving. This one's not. And he's, a programmer, so he's curious about humans. And he's like, calls them. He's like, why are you not thriving? Like, what's going on? And they start making excuses of, man, I just have employees that are just like coming through like a turnstile. Then I have to fire them, get new ones. They don't know what they're doing, so I have to fire them, etc. And then he reaches out to the two successful ones, very similar business, similar areas. Why are you guys so successful? Well, I discovered personal development, and the more money I make, the more I want to personally develop, and I've taken my team on for the ride. And what he actually came up with the statistics, for every 300% growth in a business, so a business that goes from $0 to $300,000, and then from $300,000, let's say, to about $900,000, every 300% level of growth, if the leader is doing self-development work and also bringing their team along with them, that team will stay and continue to be able to run that business at that higher, more complex level. If the leader is doing the personal development work but is not bringing their team along with them on that personal development journey, they're going to have a turnstile in terms of employment, and therefore the business goes up, 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 and then down, 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 up, 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 down, down, down. And while we see that in business, the same thing applies to regular people in normal life, right?
We see it in the I get the phone call all the time that Tuesday morning after the project from one of the recent graduates. I went back to work, and the person next to me, they're fucking talking while they're chewing their food. Their desk is a mess. Their garbage is overflowing. Their backpack zippers aren't at fucking 12 o'clock. Like, they're noticing that some things that they never noticed before because they were that same slouch.
Right.
But even little tiny things, that attention to detail, they can't handle anymore. They're at a whole new operating level. What do I do about it? I'm not in a position to fire this person because they just have a regular job. What do I do about it? I said, you just keep doing what you're doing, leveling up. It's your duty and obligation to try and take that person along for the ride. If they're not willing to and they want to keep chewing like a fucking cow and having their garbage overflowing, let them do it. Let them be a fucking slouch while you continue to level up. So either you're going to do the duty and help them out, level them up with you and help the company, or you're going to keep doing what you're doing. And guess what? The way that you're standing out already, you're going to stand out 10 times more because now it's compared to what you used to be and what this fucking loser is operating as. So you'll stand out more. First, definitely try to help them out. That is our job. Leave them better than we found them. And if
part of our
not-
creed. Yep.
If they're not open to that, then all right, then weaponize it by now making you stand out even more and using it to propel yourself even further. I get that call every fucking class that they can't handle. They go nuts. They get fucking neurotic about it because of the people they've realized what people were doing all along. They never noticed it, but now they're noticing so many things, attention to detail, people showing up late to meetings, people showing up unprepared, people not having fire, not looking people in the eyes and they talk to them, sitting down when they're shaking hands, and stupid little things that they never realized, like everything. They have these project goggles on now where everything just stands out and fucking hits them in the face and they can't handle it.
Yeah. And you make a good point there because, again, I didn't realize that I had a responsibility and a duty to help bring my people up with me. And so whether you're developing as a better human, your 2.0 self, through the project, through doing some kind of self-development on your own, whatever the vehicle is, I think as humans, we have a responsibility. Step one, can you help others get on the ride? And part of that might be, hey, Steve, I read this great book. It really helped me understand how I think and what limiting beliefs I have. It's called The Big Leap. Would you want to read it? And maybe you say yes, and you read it, and maybe you don't even act on it. You read it, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, glass ceilings, limiting beliefs. Okay, got it. And you don't act on it. But a seed might be planted where 2 years from now, something happens in your life where you're like, you know what? It happened because of this glass ceiling, this limiting belief that I read about 2 years ago. Let me do something about it. So sometimes your help in trying to bring people up might be almost like this delayed fuse. Other times you're like, dude, I went to this thing called The Project. Here's the list of books that they have us read. And man, when I read this one from Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil, completely changed my life. Here, read it. And they read it and someone's like, holy fuck, I'm a changed man. Today's the day I flipped the switch. Cool, that happens too. But I think that's step number one. And if someone doesn't want to take that step number one, in other words, they don't want to take your advice, they don't want to go on a run with you, they don't want to go do a fun workout over the weekend, they don't want to read a book, they don't want to listen to a podcast that you're going to send them to. There's so many ways to try and help someone out without saying, you got to go do the project, right? Like, yes, they'll eventually get there and be like, dude, you're a changed man, and I've been watching you for the last 6 months, and you've stayed a changed man. So tell me about that project again, or tell me about that Spartan race you did, or that course that you went to, or therapist you worked with, whatever the thing is that helped you level up. But if you can't help them, then because they don't want the help, then level two is you got to be a walking, talking role model. Because you might be helping someone else. Like, yeah, maybe you're not helping your cubicle buddy or your coworker or your business partner, but you might be helping people just by the way you carry yourself, the way you conduct life. And I think that's what oftentimes we forget is we are still a walking, talking role model. But
what about that person that doesn't want, is just not listening to it, not up for the help? You've done your duty and obligation. You've gone all out. You've done your due diligence. What do you do then with that person?
Well, with that person, you have to either edit that relationship, like depending on how tight the relationship is with, right? You have to either edit or eliminate. And we talk about this at the project.
Trim the fat.
You got to trim the fat. And if it's a family member, maybe you see them less, or you don't talk about the things that they don't get. I always talk about at the project. I would get frustrated when I would go visit my mom and dad, and I would talk about, man, I'm having this big event called Fitness Business Summit, and it's going to be 1,500 people, and I'm giving away a Land Rover to one of my coaching clients, and I'm excited. And I would share that with my mom and dad. I think part of it was because I want to show them that, man, you brought me to this country, I've made something of myself, and I'm putting on this big event. They would see it through the lens of like risk, cost, what if I don't fill the seats? And so their whole thing was, what if this doesn't work out? And I would get so frustrated, and I'd be like, how can it not work out? I'm on my 5th year of doing this thing, right? And when I started griping to Kevin, my therapist, about this, he's like, have you thought about not bringing up to them the things that their brains can't actually process? I was like, fuck. My dad was a tailor in Armenia, bro. Like, what does he know about running a 3-day event, 1,500 people, giving away a Land Rover? And you were actually one of the Land Rover winners back in the days. And so I go, then Kevin, what do I talk to my parents about when I go to their house? He's like, what are they into? I'm like, oh, my dad's got a garden. He grows cucumbers and tomatoes. One day he took a plum. True story. My dad took a fucking plum, a dark purple plum, and a tomato, and he grafted them together, and he created these tomato plums, which were delicious. And they've got dogs, like little chihuahuas. So I started talking about the things they're more interested in. That's called editing the relationship. Don't talk about the things that are going to trigger you. And instead, talk about the things that you still might have in common that their simple minds, for lack of a better term, could process. And then the eliminating of trimming the fat. Well, you have to realize, like, all right, if we're not family, we're not coworkers, or we are coworkers, but you don't jive with me, you're still vaping, you're still coming to work drunk or whatever, I got to fire you. Like, we are no longer congruent. I used to live that life. Now I don't. Like, I tried helping you, all the due diligence, nothing worked. Peace out. And I think the reason people don't do that is we feel some level of guilt, some level of, man, we've been friends for so long.
I have a barrier of entry. Whenever, like, we were homeschooling, we met some other homeschooling parents, and they want the kids to get together. So the first thing is always, the invitation is always, all right, come on over, we'll get a workout together. Someone responded, no, we're not really into that kind of thing. I said, I will never fucking speak to that person as long as I live. You're not into that kind of thing? You're not my kind of people. I can't comprehend it. So it's there's that barrier of entry. There's those boundaries. There's those rules that you live by.
And standards, right? That's part of our creed in the project. Like, we have high standards of expectations, and whatever those expectations are. And look, that dude might be like, well, I play chess, and not to say you don't play chess, but maybe you don't. I don't know. But you're like, hey, chess ain't my thing. He's like, cool. Obviously, we don't get along. So just because you homeschool and I homeschool, that one thing can't be it. There has to be more points of interest for us to be able to move forward in a friendship, in a community, and whatever. So now let's talk about this other thing. Like, what happens when you level up and people around you don't want to, and you kind of start feeling like an island? Like, fuck, man, I'm all alone. Like, then what?
You go, and we've talked about before, you go in, well, that's why we have the Brotherhood and the project. People don't know about that. They see just the crawling. They don't know that our closest friends are project graduates.
Yep.
That's really what it comes down to. Creating that brotherhood, and we talked about it on previous episodes, is starting your own group. Go search out and start your own groups. Go and meet people and get out of your own fucking town if you have to. We've had people quit their jobs, move into a whole different city. There's sometimes you have to relocate. Some places are not meant for you to be anymore. You've outgrown even that environment. You need to change your environment, because sometimes it's just going to fucking drag you down. You need to get around more of your people. Go find your people.
Yeah.
They're out there, especially with the internet. You can find them. You can do things in person, online. There's ways to always find your fucking people.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just because your old friends decided to not continue this journey of friendship with you after you've kind of flipped the switch and became 2.0 does not mean that you can't find new friends. And we have to understand, friends, that there's phases of life. Like, you know, I used to be so hot and heavy about I'm going to be a personal trainer the rest of my life. Like 25 years ago, if you were like, B, what are you going to be the rest of your life? I'm like, I'm going to be a personal trainer. And they're like, did you ever think you'd run a big international fitness franchise? Nope. Did you ever think you'd have a supplement company? Nope, that ain't ever going to happen. You've got me mistaken with someone else. There's a fucking fly in here, a gnat or something. Or you know, did you ever think you're going to run this thing called the Project for Men? Did you ever think you're going to author a book? Nope. Everything would be nope. I'm just going to be a personal trainer, working in a gym, or maybe having my own, and that's that. We forget that as we grow, we hit new milestones in life. We have kids, we get married, we see the world changing, and we're like, fuck, man, I might be called to do something different in a relationship, for men specifically, for young boys specifically who want to have that rite of passage. And you know what? That seems like a greater calling to me now than this thing is. Phases of life. So understand, where there's phases of life and purpose and passion, there's also phases of life and friendships. You and I have known each other long enough to see people come through our life in phases. That's just a reality. That's just a reality. Do I, in a perfect world, do I idealistically think, like, man, it'd be fucking cool if everybody was on that ride? Not everyone is going to be on that ride. And if we share the core values, if we have the same character, if we ride on that same integrity, awesome. Here we are. If we don't, new phase of life, ta-da, here we go. And so never be afraid to be able to trim the fat that doesn't belong, or if you get trimmed out because you don't belong in their fucked up group anymore, to go out there and do what Steve said, which is start your own group or find a new group of equally as crazy, wacky, hard-charging, driven, motivated, purpose, passion, chasing people who you're like, fuck, man, I belong.
And it's not that hard.
Think
of the event you just had a couple months ago. You could go to an event like that and meet
BK Live,
hundreds and hundreds of people that are like-minded. They come from all over the world, different countries that you can then connect with, and now you just found your people, and you're getting put in the same room. But you have to go out there and invest in it, put the time in it, not just sit and bitch and complain about it, and realize, like you said, everything you do is a stepping stone to the next thing, that next season. Like it says in your gym, never peak, the best is yet to come. Think about that as in every goal that you achieve is the point that goes to the next goal, is the starting point to the next goal. And that goes for yourself too, not just in the relationships. Like, guys come to the project and they're gonna The ones that say, okay, I accomplished this thing, that's going to be the hardest thing I ever did in my life. Like, they're destined to fucking fail. That can't be the hardest thing you did in your life. Maybe up to that point, but you have to make the project look like a joke eventually. You have to continue doing hard shit. I realize that every time I do a personal challenge for myself, or every time we do the project, I think that I have to find my new hard. If an ice bath used to be hard for you for 3 minutes and you do it for 3 minutes every day, it is no longer hard. You're not working on your personal development. You're not working on your mental toughness. It's not doing shit with resilience. That's just an average. That's like tying your fucking shoes. You have to find the new hard all the time. What is your new hard? Otherwise, you're just staying in place. Yeah. So it can never be the end. The best is yet to come. Always, till the fucking day you die, is find the new hard. So that's what guys I've seen that they struggle with. When they complete something and they level up, they think that's the finish line. Like, that's the pinnacle. That's the peak in life. And then everything starts drifting down, and then they wonder why a year later, oh, what happened? That project thing was supposed to be this fucking life-changing thing, but you have to ride that wave, that momentum, and now go find what is the next hard thing past the project. What's the next challenge I could do? And that's for yourself. That's physically, you could do that. In business, you could do that. What is the next fucking monster you need to go and attack?
Yeah, and that's what we talk about. I think John Eldridge in his book, he talks about this, that every man needs a battle to fight, a adventure to have, and a beauty to rescue, or another way of saying it, like, to find the love of your life. And it's just in our DNA as men. If we're not constantly now chasing the next battle, the next adventure, we are going to go inward and start focusing on our dark thoughts, our emotional thoughts, our thoughts that are, driven by feelings, and those never lead anywhere productive. And so, we have to remind the guys at the project, we're like, dude, did you have the greatest time training for the project, like the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get here to be able to finish this thing? Fuck yeah, I did. Great. And does it feel good that now that we rang the bell and secured the class, like, does it feel good to be one of the guys who didn't quit? Fuck yeah, it does. Great. As soon as your body recovers, you got to go find that next adventure, that next battle until you die. And this is I got challenged one time because on my podcast on the BK Show, someone left a comment. How can you say that never peak, the best is yet to come, when your body's going to get older, you're going to break down, you can't squat what you used to, you can't bench what you used to, you can't run what you used to? Okay, the next level of hard might be intellectual. Like, I might learn 3 or 4 new languages before I die. I might be in my 70s and 80s and learn to play the guitar, the piano, or something else. I might learn to be able to play chess, something that doesn't require a squat rack and 4 or 5 plates like I used to. That doesn't mean that hard has to be physical, but you have to keep challenging yourself, because every man still needs that adventure and that battle to fight. Anything else to add to the rest of this episode?
Just that, like we said, we always tie it into the creed. I'm responsible for everything in my life, and it gives me the power and control to change my circumstances. That's what men need to realize, whether it's on the way to the project, on the way to that hard thing, after the project. Like, you are responsible for your life, and you have the power and control to change your circumstances. You don't like your circumstances, do something about it. Don't just sit on your ass. Do something about it. Go and move. Go to show up to the event. Go meet the new people. Go make the introduction. Start the group. Do the thing. Get off your fucking ass. Don't just do hard shit. Yes, do hard shit, but go find the new hard. And you're responsible to do that. And you're responsible to change your circumstances.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. It's a responsibility that we have. It's, no hard fairy is going to come and be like, well, it looks like you're ready for something new and hard. Here it is, right? Like, you got to go find those things and find the groups to do it with, because when you do, the brotherhood gets deeper. You start bonding at a higher level. All those things happen. So with that said, guys, understand that there's a cost to be paid for leveling up, but that cost doesn't have to be as extreme if you understand that life comes to you, 1, in phases. Number 2, that it is your job to help everyone else around you level up. Number 3, if they don't want to level up, then it is your job to still be a role model, because you don't know who's watching from the outside and motivated and inspired by the way you've changed your life and flipped a switch. So guys, with that said, we want to thank you for watching this episode of the MDK Project Show. Be sure to follow Steve Eckert on his Instagram. Follow me on my Instagram at Bedros Keuilian. And also in the description box, or you can go to themdkproject.com, click on that link, fill out the application, and join us at an upcoming project class. We'll see you guys next time.